Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Friday evening to you all. Hope everyone is doing well out there tonight. You certainly had yourselves a fantastic day, a great ending to your week, and I hope everyone is having a great start to their weekend. Thank you all for joining me tonight. We're going to discuss many topics, about 4 or 5 different topics, so definitely buckle up if you're someone who watches the entire video, and I certainly appreciate the heck out of you folks who do that, but I definitely appreciate everyone who tunes in, and just thank you all for taking time out your Friday to listen about some weather. Take advantage of those timestamps, guys. They're there to help you folks. It's going to be sectioned off very well to jump to different areas of the video that are talking about weather for your specific area. So we're going to talk about the severe weather that's ongoing right now that's going to last into the overnight hours all the way into our Saturday morning for like Texas into Louisiana. We have ongoing severe thunderstorms right now across Texas. We had a tornado in North Texas. Very photogenic tornado also. It just goes to show you, we can still have tornadoes on only a 2% risk of a tornado type day, which was today. So it's already happened. We've already had a confirmed tornado. We'll talk about a severe weather threat also for Sunday. This is kind of a sneaky threat that I think is going to increase potentially as we get into our Saturday and then eventually into our Sunday morning. We'll have to see what they are showing, but I definitely think that we have the potential to see a slight risk, level 2 out of 5 risk for Florida into Sunday. We'll talk about the ingredients kind of driving that risk in that section of the video. Then we'll talk about a lot of moisture this weekend across the Rockies, higher elevation snow, lower elevation rain. Denver, the chances for accumulating snow are starting to increase a little bit. And a big part of this video is going to be discussing this large storm system that's going to move in tomorrow for California, last all the way into Tuesday. A lot of high winds, flooding rains, higher elevation snow. A lot of people are talking about this, and we're going to get very detailed on that. After that, we're going to wrap this video up by talking about this pattern change. We will discuss a warm-up before this pattern change. We haven't talked a lot on that. We've kind of just jumped ahead to the mid-month time frame, but we're going to talk about what's leading up to that also, because I definitely think it's worth being discussed. I think it's going to confuse a lot of people, but that mid-month pattern change is still on the way, folks. Day by day, the closer we get to it, the confidence just continues to steadily increase. So we're going to talk about what we're seeing on that. If you folks have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. If anybody has anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put those in the comments below. Let's get rocking and rolling here. A lot of action ongoing in Texas. We got some strong storms beginning to move into southwest Oklahoma. You see all these red areas right here. That is severe thunderstorm warnings. We had a tornado warning earlier that has since been dropped, and it's just a severe thunderstorm warning now as this structure of storms is becoming a little bit more linear, meaning a line of storms. We got snow falling out in Nova Scotia as we're going to have an all weekend long winter storm over here. Definitely hunker down. Big time winter storm, maybe the biggest of the winter so far. Feet of snow out there expected. And then across the west, just scattered and smothered moisture out here. You just got kind of just waves of showers and snow depending on your elevation out here. Nothing really concentrated at all right now. That'll change as we get into tomorrow. Watches, warnings, and advisories. This mustard color is high wind warnings, more brown color right here. That is high wind watches, and of course, not everywhere in California, but a good chunk of California has some sort of alert of some sort. So, you got flood watches in the green. This brown color is high wind watches. This mustard color right in here, high wind warnings like from San Francisco all the way to Santa Barbara. A lot of strong winds are going to be in that area for sure. And then this section right into here, this is really what happens this weekend. Winter storm warnings up for numerous areas in the Rockies. Winter weather advisories up for some areas where not as much snow is forecast, and just the never-ending fog across the northern section of the lower 48. But we do have winter storm watches up now for like the Denver metro area. So this is what it looks like as far as watches, warnings, and advisories. Pretty quiet in the central and eastern U.S. Let's talk about this ongoing severe weather threat right now across Texas. So you're going to still maintain that slight risk between now and the next several hours. Technically, it'll probably last between now all the way into the wee hours of the morning. So we still got the slight risk, guys, and this is really driven off that 2% tornado threat. Then we have that 15% risk of hail exceeding, we'll go on and show it to you, 15% risk of hail. And now we have a hatch risk down here. So I didn't even know we had this until it just popped it up on the screen. So not only do we have the 15% risk of hail in this area right here, we also have a 10% risk in this checkered black area down here of significant hail, which means we have a 10% risk of hail exceeding 2-inch in diameter or larger down here just west of San Antonio. So could have some large hail down here. Wind threats still just at 5% risk, and that tornado threat still just at that 2% risk. But we've already had that tornado right up here in North Texas, well west of Dallas, the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So how this is going to look like over the next several hours, we start to get closer to like the 10 p.m. range. Let's take it all the way to about midnight, 11 p.m. midnight. Some storms are knocking on the doorstep of the Dallas-Fort Worth area. We got some showers and storms down here in central Texas. All these could be producing some gusty winds, isolated tornado threat. The further south you get, the better the ingredients for larger hail. So definitely watch out for some hailers down here. And then we continue, and, these could break up in a couple different segments. You got one segment, 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, overnight tonight into Saturday morning. We got some storms kind of up against the Texas coastline. These need to be watched for a tornado also. I mentioned this in this morning's video, how I thought we're going to be dealing with a pretty rocky start to our Saturday morning down here near Houston. I still think that. But up here, the more kind of congealed area storms will continue to kind of take over all of eastern Texas, even some storms possible up here in the southeast sections of Oklahoma. This is around, for example, this is around 6 o'clock in the morning tomorrow morning. Definitely some active times around the Houston area, all the way down to Corpus Christi. You see these storms, and then they begin to affect like the Shreveport area as the sun's coming up, and these storms start to extend out into the Gulf of Mexico, where eventually that energy will ride across the Gulf of Mexico. And if it was a little bit further north, you would have a bigger severe weather threat for like Louisiana, Mississippi tomorrow. But most of the more significant ingredients for severe weather stays in the northern Gulf of Mexico. But, we know the peninsula of Florida sticks out like a sore thumb, so that'll be a different case. But this is the threat for tomorrow. You will still be waking up to that severe weather threat in Houston. And also right up against the Louisiana coastline, the swamp regions, you're going to have a risk of severe weather. The closer you are tucked up against the ocean, the Gulf of Mexico, the higher your severe weather threat. So I am watching Florida. As of now, just a level 1 out of 5 risk of severe weather. Okay, this is from like Tampa Bay down to Fort Myers, includes Miami, Fort Lauderdale, all the way. It's basically the southern section, the southern half of the peninsula of Florida. Right now, we're not close enough to this where it shows the threat levels. I would not be surprised one bit we wake up to a slight risk in this area. And this show you what the radar looks like first. This is the latest long-range H-triple-R model, and there's all that energy that you just saw at the kind of the last end of the last frame that I just showed you from Texas. All this kind of cruises across the Gulf of Mexico, heads right towards Florida. So, this goes all the way out to Sunday morning, 8 a.m. We got some strong storms greeting you folks just off the coastline of West Florida. About to move into the Tampa Bay region, Clearwater. And, look at these storms down here. It could be a rocky start to your Sunday morning across the west coast of Florida. And this only goes out to 48 hours out, about midday Sunday. What we watch for is, look at these storms down in Key West. This could be a nasty line of storms for you folks. But what we watch for is any kind of clearing behind this. We get this to kind of move through quick, or this is more of a weaker state. You have more time for the atmosphere behind this to clear out as we get deeper into our Sunday afternoon. The NAM kind of shows that. NAM takes that initial first area of moisture, kind of weakens it. Sunday morning pushes this across Florida, and then we have these additional storms that form behind it. Now, is the ingredients going to be supportive for severe weather up here in North Florida? I would say you're not going to have as good as thermodynamics up here in North Florida. Your higher moisture levels, Cape levels, and things like that. I think that you get any storms that form right in here. This is around Sunday, late afternoon, evening. These storms right here kind of cruising really any given location across the peninsula of Florida, especially the further south you get. You got to watch for severe weather and a tornado threat for this, as there's a low up here, and of course, southeast, eastern flank of this low, you're going to have a favorable kinematic wind field with this. And sure enough, you look at the NAM, could be overdone. This is at 500 millibars. This indicates just a lot of wind energy in the upper levels of the atmosphere. And sure enough, as we get to about midday Sunday, a lot of wind energy starts to move into the west coast of Florida. This is going to cause a lot of lift for thunderstorms. How is the atmosphere going to be as that initial push of morning shower and storm activity kind of moves through? If something like the NAM, the H-triple-R model happens, the atmosphere might not be able to recover in Florida. Now, the NAM could be different, though. The NAM brings a lot of wind energy into South Florida. okay? A lot. You know, you get in this mid-level jet screeching across this area. We call this the exit region of the jet that kind of screeches. There's the low right here. You can see where the winds get calm and this kind of blasts through areas of South Florida. And of course, big thing, you know, I love to look at is these dew points. I mean, you got not high-end dew points, but you got, you know, dew points getting into the mid to high 60s in this region. That's a thermodynamic that is certainly supportive for severe weather. But, you know, you get up here into like South Georgia, dew points quickly crash into the 50s and 40s. But the ingredients will be there, thermodynamic-wise, for a risk of severe weather. So we'll definitely watch this. We'll definitely update you on that a little bit more as we get a little bit closer to it. Now, out in the Rockies, we'll start this off for Saturday morning. We'll talk about kind of what happens this weekend. Snow is going to already be falling tomorrow morning across areas of western Wyoming, western Montana, areas of Idaho, and certainly the higher elevations of Colorado. But you keep this going all the way into about midday Saturday. You see this big area of moisture? How are you going to crash to kind of from rain to snow in Denver? Certainly south of Denver in the foothills region, you can get several inches of snow, but this is kind of a weird system. And you know, I don't think this is going to be a big deal at all for you folks up here in western Montana. Just a normal kind of wintertime system. Higher elevation snow, lower elevation rain, and, you know, a few to several inches of snow could add up. The big wild card for me is what happens in like Wyoming, especially Colorado. And you kind of keep this going. It looks like it stays rain all the way through Saturday afternoon. And then as we get into Saturday evening, tomorrow evening, you could get, you know, rain switching to some heavy wet snow in the Denver area. And you could get a period of accumulating snow that lasts into the overnight hours in Denver. And then you can see the big system entering the screen. We'll talk about that here in a second. But could get some more widespread snow up in like central and western Montana as we're getting into our Sunday morning as snow levels kind of begin to drop. So, you know, there's that. You know, my friend Karen up here that watches from Montana, certainly you could get some snow in your region. That's for sure, especially as we get into Sunday. I don't think we'll get a huge system out of this by any means, but definitely some accumulating snow is possible with this kind of setup. And we look at a broad take at this with the Rockies, how much snow is expected. And, you know, there's a highlight area up here in the higher elevations of western Montana, Idaho, Yellowstone National Park, several inches of snow depending on elevation. And then we kind of take a closer look at our friends here in Colorado. And this is where I think the system could be kind of tricky along the front range. You know, Denver right in here going for an inch and a half of snow. You go a couple hours south of Denver into the foothills, over a foot of snow is possible from this. Any elevation helps. It really does. And a better way to look at this is, you know, an awesome graphic from the National Weather Service in Boulder. 1 to 2 inches of snow now forecast in Denver, but you get down to Castle Rock, 8 to 12 inches of snow. So, you know, at one point, you know, they were calling for under an inch of snow in Denver. So they've actually increased it. So we'll see what happens. We'll see if this continues to increase as we start to make our way into our, you know, like Saturday and tomorrow morning if confidence begins to increase on this. So let's go on and talk about this big storm system that's going to hit California. So kind of a zoomed in look at California as far as watches and warnings. You know, a quick reminder, you know, and I saw some people comment from California saying, hey, you know, I'm watching your channel. I just want to thank y'all. Let me know if you're tuned in from California. I would love to know. It kind of motivates me more to talk about these areas. And, you know, I'm in little itty bitty old South Carolina over here on the eastern U.S., but I'm trying to just expand knowledge on all the microclimates out here. Things are just so much more different out west. You know, L.A., for example, you know, you're never going to see snow in L.A. We don't think. You know, we could. But, you know, you just go up to the road to the higher elevations and you can see snow easily. So, you know, it's a lot different in these areas out west, but I'm going to try to, you know, give my best guess at it. Maybe we'll get some areas memorized over time. But winter storm warnings for the pink, Sierra Nevada, winter storm watches issued. These will no doubt get, I don't even know why they don't even have winter storm warnings gone and just reissued in this area of the Sierra Nevada. But flood watches up for the valley regions of California, Sacramento, San Francisco, Santa Barbara, Santa Maria. You know, you folks not only have, you know, a flooding issue coming up, you got these high winds also. And even these higher peaks, these higher mountain ranges kind of outside the LA region in Southern California, winter storm watches. So, you know, snow levels are going to drop enough for even these areas to see some snow. So this is a closer look at it. The mustard colors, that's high wind warnings, high wind watches as of right now, and kind of the more brown colors. Let's take a look at what this looks like. We can take a look at the HRRR model, which is in view and only goes out 48 hours. and then we'll extend a little bit past this. So starting off Saturday morning, quiet start. Anything you need to get done, do it tomorrow morning because, you're going to have a quiet period. But as we start to get into tomorrow afternoon, this is around 3 p.m. This is an Eastern time for my folks tuning in out west, so back this up, a few hours. But rain begins to enter the central coastline of California between San Francisco and like Santa Barbara. LA's all the way down here. So it looks like you're staying dry for the most part down here in LA. You head on up the road between San Francisco and LA. This is the area where it gets hit first. Nose of this atmospheric river that we're going to see starts to move in. So this is around tomorrow evening sometime. A lot of rain begins to move in. The yellow is the heavier rain. And when you start to see some of the orange and reds on your screen, that's really heavy rain. And then this really starts to take over this section of California. We'll take it all the way out to let's just go all the way out to about mid-morning, Sunday morning, and here it is. Tons of rain. Even some heavier bursts of like thunderstorm activity. You see where this low is, and you see these splotches of light reds just offshore of San Francisco. This is where we could get some really high winds, and of course the Sierra Nevada getting a ton of snow. I mean, we're talking several inch per hour rates up here is on the way. And then, as we are starting to get into about midday Sunday, the rain starts to inch down here to the LA region, but Santa Barbara, Santa Maria, up to San Francisco, even north of San Francisco, getting hit very hard with a wind-driven rain, and the storm is just full force at this point. For my folks in like LA, San Diego, they're thinking, you get through tomorrow and you're thinking, man, this storm ain't doing nothing. It really doesn't get going into, as we get into our Sunday, really. And we'll kind of start off where we left off Sunday morning. And here's this storm system. Moisture begins to get kind of thrown back into LA, start to see some in San Diego, but especially LA points north. A lot of heavy rain continues up just up the shoreline of California. And you kind of keep going. You might get a break in the central California coastline, but you're getting a lot of moisture slung into the southern California coastline at this point. And this is when I think conditions can go downhill kind of Sunday night into Monday for these areas. And then as we get into our Monday night, a lot of moisture begins to fall in Southern California. This is when San Diego could get a lot of their moisture as we start to get into like Monday night, Monday evening. And then as we start to get in our Tuesday, still a lot of moisture ongoing. Still a risk of flash flooding. But I think that it really starts to let up as we get into our Wednesday for sure. So that's kind of the timeline of it. I hope that makes sense. Rainfall just between now, from the National Weather Service, between now and Monday evening. Okay, already going for several inches of rain. Of course, this precipitation in the Sierra Nevada is snow. Lower elevation, it's rain. But I mean, we'll kind of take a closer look at all these areas. So, here's a broad look at it. And, you take a look at the European with this too. And this is rainfall between now and Thursday morning. So this goes out a little bit further, indicates a lot of rain down the central to southern California coastline. And, we're talking over a half a foot of rain, folks. It's a lot of rain coming. So taking a closer look at Southern California with this rain, this is around the LA region. The common theme just between now and Monday evening is, 4, 5, 6 inches of rain. Another inch or so of rain is going to be added on to this, especially our folks in San Diego. You're getting about an inch of rain just between now and about Monday evening, but you could get additional half inch to an inch of rain after this also. We go a little bit further up the coastline, and this is rainfall between now and, Monday evening again. And just a little bit closer look, San Francisco, another 2 to 3, 4 inches of rain is possible. Get down to Santa Maria, Santa Barbara, anywhere from 3 to 5 inches of rain is possible with this. And it's still raining after this too. So, the threat of flash flooding is real, folks. There's no high risk as of now, but this is getting into our Sunday. Let me make sure I'm right here. Yeah, our Sunday. So we have that moderate risk of flash flooding, which means for Sunday morning to Monday morning, there's a 40% risk of flash flood guidance being met within 25 miles of any given location. And that includes LA. That includes Oxnard. I think that's how you pronounce it. Santa Barbara, up to Santa Maria. Lompoc. Definitely, I'm sorry, guys. I'm in South Carolina. I'm giving it my best whirl here. San Francisco's up here. So, I think that you'll have a risk of flooding in a Monday. But, if we back it up to day 2, day 3 will be worse for sure. But we go to day 4, and then the risk begins to shift to more so the Southern California coastline. Now San Diego is including this into our Monday. This is getting into our Monday, LA down to San Diego, higher populated regions down here. 40% risk of flash flood guidance being met. That's almost a 50-50 shot, folks. It's a big deal. Take this serious for sure. So talking about snowfall, Sierra Nevada going to get rocked with heavy, heavy snow. I don't have any great graphics out in this area, but I mean, the color codes are getting maxed out here. Feet of snow. I mean, someone's probably going to get 6 feet of snow somewhere. The best graphic I can look at is this one. It's the National Weather Service out of Sacramento. It's very fuzzy looking, but, Sonora Pass, between now and the duration of this event, 60 to 78 inches of snow, folks. It's ridiculous. And, I mean, you're going to get several inch per hour rates. Imagine getting six inches of snow in 1 hour. That's how these rates are going to be. And from everything I heard up in the Sierra Nevada, that's pretty common. I mean, it's not common, but it's common with these kind of storms. So pretty wild stuff. So definitely be careful. When you're talking about winds with this system, potential wind gusts just between now. Let's just take a look at the Euro. We got to take a look at the entire duration of this storm. Let's go back to that. I'm sorry, I'm everywhere, folks. Not a whole lot's changed here. San Diego, I mean, 30, 40 mile per hour wind gusts are possible. Highest peak wind gusts, maybe 30, 35. You get up to Los Angeles, you might get a peak wind gust around 45 to 50 miles per hour. But you get on up the coastline, we take it up to Central California, south of San Francisco down to Santa Maria. I know I keep mentioning those areas, but Santa Barbara, these areas, and along these coastlines, in this region right in here, highest wind gusts, 60, 70 mile per hour wind gusts are possible. Blizzard conditions up in the Sierra Nevada. I think those winter storm watches could get knocked up to blizzard warnings along the southern extension of the Sierra Nevada for sure. So please be careful with this. All right, let's talk about our pattern change. Let's break down the Climate Prediction Center first. This was issued today, 3 p.m., issued February the 2nd, today. 6 to 10 day temperature outlook, folks. I mean, you got maxed out high-end percentage-wise chances of above average temperatures for the central and especially the eastern U.S. I mean, where it says above right in here in that like dark burgundy color, that's pretty much a 90 to 100% chance. So you're going to have above average temperatures in these areas. I mean, we're probably going to get into the 60s in areas of the Ohio Valley, Great Lakes region with this. You're kind of thinking there's no way winter's coming back with this. But here we are. Above average temperatures, and it's looking like below average temperatures are going to be situated out west. All right, we go to our 8 to 14 day outlook. It's taking us clear to mid-February at this point. You're thinking we're wasting all winter away here in the eastern U.S. I mean, we done wasted half of a month, and I think we will. If you live in the central and eastern U.S., I think we're going to waste half a month. I'm just going to keep it real with you guys. Below average temperatures still continuing, but you can see some above average temperatures beginning to creep into this area. And I'll talk about what that means here in a second. But, this is starting to moderate, but you're still above average temperatures up here. All right, let's go on and talk about this period and why there's above average temperatures. So, bluer colors, lower pressure, cooler than average temperatures, and storminess. Okay, warmer colors, the orange, the reds, even the pinks, that's higher pressure, a ridge, whatever you want to call it, high pressure. It's more stable conditions and warmer than average temperatures. So what you notice out here, and we're getting into early next week, there's the big storm out west, and this trough will pretty much set up shop, storminess, lower pressure, and just a lot of energy out west. And then this ridge will dominate the central and especially eastern U.S. all the way up to Canada, well above average temperatures. Big time snow melt, if it's not already melted already, is going to occur. And the reason we're getting these above average temperatures is pretty much what you see on your map. You see this ridge over the eastern U.S. means the jet gets extended all the way up into here, probably quieter conditions and above average temperatures. But it's not a pattern that's entrenched in one spot. Okay, as you can tell, you get into kind of late next week. It looks like the ridge is beginning to shift away. But let's stop and talk about this warmer than average temperatures. And here it is. The European ensemble, folks. This is for this next Thursday morning, right, February 8th. And this area right here, that is temperatures over 30 degrees above average up into Canada, up into areas. And I know you guys have had a terrible winter. If you're a winter weather fan, up in the upper Midwest and the Great Lakes region, it's going to be no different with this. Okay, I mean, you're going to just get nuked with well above average temperatures. Hanging on to below average temperatures for dear life in the southeast, but I mean, even you guys aren't exempt from this. And here it comes. We're getting into Friday of next week, about a week from today. Above average temperatures just dominating the eastern U.S. This continues. It continues through next weekend, all the way into early the week after. We're starting to get into our Valentine's Day week. I'm going to mention Valentine's Day a lot just to help you men out there for your special ladies and everything like that. So we're trying to use that as a timestamp to this pattern change and to help you men out there to remember to definitely get some candy and stuff for your special girl. But anyways, as you can tell, we start to lose the influence of the above average temperatures. Okay, and that leads us to this. This was issued today. This got me kind of psyched out, got me pretty excited because this pretty much verifies what we've been talking about for about a week. This is the week's 3 to 4 temperature outlook from the Climate Prediction Center, folks. That's the experts. I don't consider myself an expert. I don't have a meteorological degree. Just somebody who loves the weather, that's learned from others, and is blessed enough to talk about the weather on a platform. But this is from the experts, issued today from February 17th through March 1st. Look at that. Below average temperatures are predicted for the southeast, the south central U.S., and the eastern U.S. in general. It's highlighted over the southeast. This makes me smile because I'm a winter weather fan. And it kind of backs up what we've been talking about. So why does it show this? Well, we kind of start off where we left off, talking about the above average temperatures. And there's that ridge continuing to be anchored over the eastern U.S. But as you can tell, this moves on out the way. You're starting to see lower pressure kind of beginning to take over the middle of the country, the eastern sections of the country. And at the same time, you're getting a ridge beginning to build over the western U.S., trying to get all the way up to Alaska. It takes some time, though. And this continues, and, we get all the way into about the 13th, 14th time frame of February. Okay? Look at this lower pressure indicating over the eastern U.S. Now, even though you see these pretty blues, if you're a winter weather fan, over the eastern U.S., that does not mean that this is below average temperatures. Okay? This is just indicates lower pressure at 500 millibars, which we don't know how high up 500 millibars is. Several tens of 20s of thousands of feet up in the air. In fact, let's Google it really quick. 500 millibars to feet, because I can't think of it right off the top of my head. It's 18,000 feet up, so not as high up as I thought. 18,000 feet up. I know some people are thinking, Mitch, you should have that memorized. No, I definitely don't. But let's get back to where we were at. There it is. So this isn't. Remember this. This is kind of the pattern at what we look at 500 millibars, way up in the atmosphere, okay? This isn't the surface. So it doesn't mean that just because you see these blues, this doesn't immediately define what your temperatures are at the surface. So this indicates lower pressure, a stormy pattern, a dip in the jet stream. You can think of it as all those things, many things. A trough, I mentioned that a lot. So you kind of keep this going. And what happens here is I think you got a signal right here for some sort of storm signal, probably right in this area. And as this trough, what we call kind of troughiness, if you will, kind of stays over the eastern U.S., it is gradually cooling down all levels of the atmosphere. And as we get to 300 hours out, I know that's eternity out. I know you got people saying, you're always saying 2 weeks out, blah, blah, blah. Well, I'm telling you, this is coming. This is coming. Okay? You're getting a feed from the colder areas of the Earth, which is the Arctic up here. So we call this a cross-polar flow. This is dipping down. That doesn't mean we have Arctic air in this area. It means that it's cooling down. We're getting a feed of cold air, trying to cool down the surface. That's what I tried to explain today on social media about all these pretty blues that you're seeing. Even at this point, deep, dark blues, right, over the eastern U.S. But still, we're not that colder than average. And I'm going to talk about what I mean here in a second. But anyways, let's go on and take it all the way to about like the 15th to 16th of February. Got a good looking pattern here. I think by this point, we've probably already had some sort of storm system in the eastern U.S. I'm not talking about a snowstorm, winter storm for the southeast, or maybe even for the I-95 corridor, the mid-Atlantic or the northeast, but some sort of storm system most likely. Tall ridge all the way up into here. Okay, we need this to continue to take on that look. We got a dip in the jet all the way down into here. Okay, feed of cold air coming down. We got pieces of energy probably trying to shoot down into here. We got what we call the southern stream, Pacific energy, trying to get going, trying to feed into this cold air also. Northern stream in these X's, southern stream in this X's. Okay? Will they try to meet somewhere right in here where this cold air is? I think it could happen. I think it happens as we get into more of the February the 20th range, meaning once we get into February 20th and beyond, I think that's going to be a period to really watch. But you got a tall ridge. This is dislodging cold from the Arctic. Negative EPO, I think, will be in place. Positive PNA. I don't think it'll be super negative, which means I don't think we'll have a really potent ridge over Alaska. We really would like to see that. But we have a negative NAO, which helps our storm track over the eastern U.S. lock into place. And this is the beginning stages of a great pattern of winter making a return. And you keep this going, folks, it doesn't change. I mean, I know you see this kind of extending into the region, but it's going to get smashed back down. I know it is. And, you look at the GFS ensemble. This is the latest one that ran, and here it comes. I mean, same thing. There's the ridging kind of oozing on out the way, and then here it comes 10 days out. This pattern is already, the pieces are already coming together 10 days from now. Okay, here it is. And what's interesting to me with the latest GFS ensemble is it shows this pattern kind of setting potential storm signal being a little bit further south. And it looks like the evolution of this is just a little bit different. But same kind of look, guys. It's a little bit different. A signal for lower pressure right up here. And this is kind of different. I mean, I would say the GFS is definitely a little bit different. You don't have necessarily that cold air feed from the Arctic, but you could have it from way over here, which honestly might favor the eastern U.S. a little bit better. But you see this lower pressure coming in. It's the same kind of deal, folks. And you see the connection right in here. And even though you're seeing the warmer colors right in here, remember, this is still a cold air feed down into here with lower pressure showing up into here. Lower pressure right into here, a lower pressure right into here. Could we get some kind of connection with the southern stream? It's very possible. Still spiking ridge up in here, but I can tell you the GFS ensemble, a little bit of a different look. Not necessarily a worse look, just a different look. I mean, it really is. This is still a cold look. Just a different evolution. So I think this is a lot. Yeah, this is a lot of energy diving down. So very interesting to see what happens here. And if we look at the European ensemble, as you can tell, let's take it all the way up back to, for example, 270 hours out on the European ensemble. What does this look like as far as the heights at 500 millibars? I knew it was going to do that. It always does. It shows those pretty blue colors on it, right? You're thinking, man, that's got to be below average temperatures, right, in this region? Well, you look at temperatures compared to average for this same time frame, and yeah, not the case. I don't know what this is doing. I'm sorry, guys. This is not cooperating. Here it is. Same time frame of that blue I just showed you. It's still above average temperatures in the Ohio Valley, and just average to slightly below average temperatures showing up for the southeast. So it's going to take time for the cooler temperatures to actually work to the surface. We need this pattern in place and this trough in place for a few days, and then it's going to really start to cool down. So what about that storm signal? This indicates lower pressure again, but in a different way. It shows kind of actual low pressures out here. The blues, lower pressure, the warmer colors is higher pressure. And you kind of keep this going, I think we're going to have some sort of storm signal, which will be probably our Pacific storm that moves into California, moves across the Rockies, some sort of storm system late next week across the northern plains, mid to late next week. And there it is. This will move into Canada. And then we'll have another storm signal about 9 to 10 days out, a little bit further south. Where does it get going? But there it is. You see the bluer colors, signal for lower pressure, and it pops off right there. I still don't think it'll be cold enough for like Boston and New York City for snow with this. I think it'll take time. But there's a secondary storm. I think 1 to 2 storm signals are there. And I think 1 to 2 storm systems will likely happen. That kind of is the beginning stages of this pattern. The second one will be one to watch for the Northeast and just areas of the country. But I still don't think at this point a lot of cold air is really mixed to the surface yet. So, you look at the latest European model, only goes out 240 hours out, which is really not the full staple of our pattern. But it does show at the end of the European model, that storm signal, that second storm signal I'm watching. There it is right there. European, not saying this is a forecast, there it is. And it's not cold enough for to be some kind of big winter storm for areas of the country. It's still very warm. You see the rain showing up in Ohio. But what I'm interested in is the cold air that feeds in behind it. If you go back and remember January, we had a couple storms that kind of cut across the Midwest into the Great Lakes region, and then cold air kept following behind it. It looks like the same progression on the European. 10 days out, next Monday morning, not this coming Monday morning, but the Monday after, the 12th. Look at that 540 line diving down, and then a cold shot of air probably following it down, with energy probably diving down also. I mean, you look at the latest GFS, same thing. There's that storm signal, the first one, kind of scooting across the northern portion of the lower 48. A lot of rain, unfortunately, for you winter weather fans in the Great Lakes region, the Midwest. This will just be rain. But then the cold air kind of oozes down, lower pressure a little bit further south, and then here comes our next storm signal. About 9 to 11 days out. There it is. It's just, I mean, it does show winter weather for like Boston and southern New England, but that's their second storm signal, right? There comes the cold air. It dives in behind it. What happens after that? I mean, we're getting in la-la land after this, but look at the southern stream starting to get active, cold air on top. You're starting to get cold enough for snow in the Ohio Valley, and then look at that little bit of snow showing up in Texas, and then there's a lot of energy flying around. There's some snow showing up in the southern Alps. And there is a lot of cold air on this run of the GFS, which is 15 days out. Nothing really to really get hung up over. But on this run of the GFS, you got a lot of cold air about to dive down for mid-month. So that's all I got, guys. Hope that made sense. We'll continue to break this down for you folks. God bless all y'all. Have a great start to your weekend, and I'll talk to you in the morning.